We had to talk fast to jam all that into half a show. But what a day it was. Welcome to Outnumbered Overtime OT, baby. OT, baby. Trying to honor Harris Faulkner.
Yeah.
And all that we say and do.
I liked the rocking of the baby.
Just a little tiny one.
He's so cute.
Or you could have done this.
You could have created, gestated, and delivered a baby in the time that John Kerry spoke.
Y'all didn't tell me this whole discussion goes downhill when you start doing overtime.
What did you say earlier? It's now January 1st.
No, I said the joke I made was, welcome to Outnumbered. It's Wednesday, December the 28th, 2017.
It was so long.
And on.
Way too long. Way too long. Who's going to remember in the general public what he said?
Yeah,
nobody.
All right, so let's sort of lay this out. What's most important to an outgoing president? Peace in the Middle East, the legacy, or making $1 billion of the foundation once you leave office?
That legacy is simply going to be, we tried by taking the high road. That's not a legacy. A legacy would be some results, and that going out the door doesn't show anything other than they stabbed Israel. And they believe that this two-state solution is the only way to go. No, it is not the only way to go, because they want Israel, this administration wants Israel to be a sitting duck.
I love that you say Israel.
Yeah.
That sounds like
Israel.
everybody. We're all really the same.
Oh, yeah, I got 3 Southerners on the couch.
Yeah. No, you know, I got to say, I see it a little different, Herman. I don't know that they're stabbing Israel in the back or the front. I think that they understand. I think they have to be smarter than that. And they understand Israel is and should do what Israel needs to do to protect itself.
Yes.
Now, I don't think they can go on the record in support of it. I think that's why we saw an abstention. But they have to know that. And they have to know, as we were saying earlier.
Do you agree with the abstention?
I think that's what they had to do, only because it is indeed, the settlements are indeed in contradiction to existing international law. But again, I don't fault Israel for doing it. I think that they absolutely have to do it, only because Palestine is simply not ready for peace. And we know that because of what we've seen from them, the double speak from their government and what we see. And Kerry at least talked about this, and I was happy to hear him say this. They do they pay salaries to some of these terrorists after they, kill themselves, their families get money.
Absolutely.
They name streets after them. It's horrific.
Hamas does.
It's absolutely horrific.
They teach little kids how to be terrorists in public school.
It's really, but yet we're supposed to expect peace. Come on.
They pay the Palestinian Authority. They pay money to the families.
To the families,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But to point out something, back in I think it was in 1980, the Carter administration did something similar to the abstaining from this vote. The Washington Post wrote this then: "It cannot be denied that there is a pact and that it hounds Israel shamelessly, and this makes it very serious when the United States joins in." And the editorial was called "Joining the Jackals." Yeah. And so that then, it's no different.
And this is not just Republicans versus Democrats. This is not just an issue that divides people along party line. I mean, there are a lot of Democrats.
Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer.
Big time.
Very vocal opponent of this vote in the UN. Talk about the political ramifications.
Well, that's what I said earlier, was that's why there's always a why now. Why now and not 2 months ago?
Yeah, why not 2 years ago?
And it's because of the politics. Because
before
of the
election season. Why not 2 years ago?
Because of the Democratic backlash.
But obviously it was more important for them to have this Iran deal than it was to restart those talks that stalled in 2014.
Well, and I think it's just laughable for, Secretary Kerry to say that this resolution is in line with American values. Because how is it in line with American values to repeatedly support countries that are diametrically opposed to everything that we believe in as a country? And that's what President Obama has repeatedly done throughout his presidency. And I think we will all be much safer and better off when he leaves office. And I think that Donald, like Trump, has already demonstrated that we will stop that sort of course, and we'll stop that course in foreign policy. And I think that is a positive thing, and it really couldn't come sooner.
There are 3 flawed assumptions in this whole discussion, all these speeches. 3 flawed assumptions. Number 1, that the two-state solution is the only solution. That's flawed assumption number 1. Number 2, that the United Nations cares about the interests of Israel in a fair sense. No, they do not.
Right.
And flawed assumption number 3 is that with their proposed two-state solution and ignoring the 1967 lines, that Israel can be safe. No, they cannot. Those 3 assumptions, I believe, are all flawed in this whole discussion.
Yep. Yeah. You're 1,000% right about those 67 lines. You know,
Yes.
they have to start there. And like you say, that's a non-starter when you come to the table for peace talks and you won't at least acknowledge Israel's right to exist and acknowledge those 67 lines. You cannot start,
Right.
you know, any lawyer, any business person will tell you that there's some basic things we got to get on the table with before we can even start peace talks. And to your point, Lisa, about why, or Dagen, both of you were talking about this, why now? Why not, you know, try to restart? Because they know that that's not plausibly going to have a real solution where you can walk away from your administration and say, we actually got peace between Israel and Palestine versus the Iran deal. And that's why I don't like it. It was diplomacy for diplomacy's sake. You wanted to be able to say, we got a deal
same
done,
thing with Cuba
regardless
as well.
of the quality of the deal and Cuba.
I loved reading John Paul Horowitz's tweets. He writes his,
What did he say?
New York Post.
As it was going on, he said, I don't mean to laugh, but I just love him so much. This is an insane thing to say, even for this total blithering idiot. When he said no American administration has done more for Israel's security than Barack Obama. And then he goes on and says, hi, I'm John Kerry. I stood by as 500,000 Syrians were killed. Now let me tell Israel what to do because I'm a moral midget.
Well, and you guys, I'm really.
I mean, it was. He was blunt. That's why I was
It's definitely not mincing words. We can all agree on that. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the fallout is for the UN with President-elect Trump incoming. He has already, taken on the UN. He did that throughout the election.
Yeah.
He's been particularly critical within the past couple of days regarding the resolution.
Yeah.
Obviously, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now incensed as well. As he mentioned before on the show, he has called this resolution a declaration of war. And so I am very interested in seeing what sort of recourse Donald Trump takes as the president of the United States, the U.S. takes, and also, how Israel continues to react.
What is the UN going to do? Are they going to send peacekeeping forces to the West Bank? What are they going to do? How are they going to enforce this?
Isn't going to do diddly.
They're not going to do anything.
They're not going to do anything.
No.
Now, Donald Trump has one piece of leverage, and only time will tell whether or not he uses it. The nearly $8 billion we pay to support the United Nations.
Yeah.
If he uses that leverage, don't know if he will, to redefine the rules, which needs to happen.
Yeah.
John Bolton told me this 5 years ago when I asked him directly. I said, John, what do we need to do? He said, we need a president that has the courage to say we're going to withhold the money until we renegotiate the rules, because the United Nations has worked against Israel all of the last 8 years of the year.
It sure feels that way. I mean, being
That's
surrounded
the biggest leverage, money.
If I had one thing to say that I was looking forward to as someone who did not vote for President Trump, didn't vote for Clinton either, but it is the promise President-elect Trump has made to renegotiate better deals for the sake of our country. And really, I think he would probably have no problem to say, look, this is the leverage that I have.
Can he do that unilaterally? That's the question, though. How do you withhold that money? What is the mechanism you go about?
And what's the buy-in going to look like from, the other
and if you've got other people in Congress who are going to run for president, conceivably in 2024, are they going to?
But maybe that's the new president. Sorry,
go ahead.
Maybe that's the good thing, Kennedy, is maybe we saw in this election that it's okay to say something that would have been political suicide maybe 4 or 8 years ago and say, you know what, it's not okay to go with the grain just because that's what we've always done.
Well, the good thing is that President Obama has set the bar so low on what you extract from negotiations with other countries and deals, that really anything President-elect Trump does, if he gets any concessions at all, will be a win for the United States. So that's, it's always a positive when someone sets the bar low.
The thing about the money is that it's two-part. It's the non-discretionary piece and the discretionary piece. So legally, maybe the non-discretionary piece we have to put up. But guess what's bigger than that? The discretionary piece.
Is that $5 million?
Or
$5 billion, rather?
Probably $5 billion. But that's the leverage to get the UN's attention. Right now, they basically play the United States of America as Uncle Sucker.
All right. Well, I am glad you are far from a sucker. You are a sage, and I appreciate your wisdom on this day, Herman
Happy
Cain.
to be here. Thank you.
All right, very good. We will see you at
No suckers on this
noon
one.
Eastern, 9 in the West.
sucker. No
Tomorrow on Outnumbered.
No sucker.
You like that one?
Yes, I did.